chunks are okay, but try and get rid of most of the bigger ones. Now, next we're going to grab our Nuttalex and brown sugar. So Nuttalex is just a perfect replacement for butter, and it's nice and soft, so you don't need to soften it in the microwave or anything like that. Just put it in a bowl with your brown sugar. And we're just going to mix that up, just pressing it with the back of your spoon. So all you really want to do here is just get your sugar and Nuttalex evenly distributed. And what will happen is it will turn this nice pale colour. And sort of look nice and creamy. So once it's like this, now we can add our date mixture. So just add a little bit at the time, just so you can mix it through. It will look like it's curdling and not look very nice, but don't worry. This is how it's supposed to look. Okay. Let's mix it around so it's evenly distributed. See, the butter started to separate a bit, but once we start to add our flour, and you just want to fold this in a little bit at a time, probably go half. So just mixing it like that with a wooden spoon. Add the rest in now. Till it's all incorporated. So it should feel like just sort of a nice thick cake batter. So now we're just going to put it into our prepared trays. So I'm just going to do one little muffin. Just be aware this will rise a little bit. And then the rest I'm going to put in this tray. So if you're cooking this in a fan-forced oven, just be aware your muffins will cook much quicker, obviously because there's less volume. So I check them after 15 minutes. In my oven, because it's not fan-forced, they'll take about 30 to 35 minutes, and the big cake will take about 40. So just try and get that as even as you can. Pop these in the oven. Right. So the next, while we've got that cooking, now we'll make our sauce. So this is our butterscotch sauce, which is another really easy. So we've just got our brown sugar, Nuttalex again, just about a tablespoon, and coconut cream, which coconut cream I find in a lot of vegan, when you're trying to veganize a lot of dishes, it's a good replacement for heavy cream. So So we want about 3/4 of a cup. And when you're using it too, you'll find it often separates, so the water will go down the bottom, and so what you want is the nice cream on top. Just put this on the heat. Just grab a wooden spoon. So just on a medium heat. And also you can add a bit of vanilla to this too. I find this nice. And if you want a little bit of salted caramel, you can just add a little bit of salt as well. And so you're really just slowly bringing this to the boil. And what will happen is everything will melt and it will go quite thin, but as it sits there for a little while, it will start to thicken again. And this sauce is great just over ice cream. You can use it on lots of different desserts. It's good with chocolate cake, it's good with fudge. All right, so we're nearly there. Yeah.
Cooking fanatic, I guess, more so than professional. I am about to have my 5-year vegan anniversary next month, so I just thought I'd share with you a couple of my favorite recipes that I like to customize. I find that if you find a good base recipe, you can really do whatever with whatever you've got. So if anyone is cooking along at home and has a question on some ingredients that they wanted to pop in, then just give us a yell. But basically, you know, it's always a good idea to obviously reduce household waste, and no one likes to waste food. So in the spirit of that, I do a lot of fridge raid cooking. So today we are going to be doing the chickpea omelette recipe and the cashew sour cream. And basically I had a whole bunch of stuff that needed to be used up. So I'm doing Mexican inspired frittata with the omelette mix, and then we're also going to do a mashed potato and smoked tofu and vegan cheese omelette as well, because, you know, I had some mashed potato in the fridge and I just thought, I wonder if there's such a thing as a mashed potato omelette, and there is. So we're veganizing it. So you really can do anything. If mashed potatoes can be an omelette, you can do anything. So we're gonna make the sour cream first and then pop it in the fridge to chill. So I've just got my soaked cashews in here and drained, and then we've got some fresh water in here. Then we're also going to pop in, so that is, I've got 1.5 cups in there, or 225 grams, and then we've got 3/4 of a cup of water. Now we're going to put our 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice in there, and 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar. Now these are also using stuff that I generally have in my cupboard most of the time. So with both of these recipes, the only thing I ever need to buy is 1 lemon, and I can make both of them because I always have all this stuff. So I recommend having pantry items that you can just make go-to stuff with on the fly. And then we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to put a little bit less because I find it to be a little saltier than I like. And then we're going to blend. And how much easier is that if you need to whip something up in a hurry than buying it at the shops? Okay. Come on.
You got a compliment for your blender, Rachel.
I bought myself a Vitamix after many years of putting it off, and yes, and look how creamy that looks. So this will thicken up in the fridge. So we're just going to pop this into a bowl. And this is great for, you know, obviously using as sour cream, you know, putting it on Mexican food, tacos. You can use it as a base to make pasta sauce, salad dressings. As I said in the blurb, if anyone saw it, I've also put in some wasabi powder when I had some leftover sour cream one time, and used that on my sort of Asian fusion inspired bibimbap Japanese bowl. Bibimbap's are Korean, so yeah, it was very fusion. But you can seriously do so much with this, and I've taken it, you know, sort of parties and stuff where everyone brings something, and I get requests for it because, and that's from people who are not vegan, because it is delicious. Okay. All right, so that's just going in the fridge. All right, so now we're going to make some batter for our chickpea omelettes while that is chilling and getting firm. So what we've got here is some 3/4 of a cup of chickpea flour, also known as besan flour, that you can get at like Indian groceries or, you know, ethnic groceries, that kind of thing. So, you know, high protein, super good for you. And I honestly love this recipe. So chickpea flour, we've also got 2 teaspoons of nutritional yeast in here already, which is the vegan essential for anything cheesy or savory deliciousness tasting. Then what we're going to do is just pop in our other herbs and spices. Okay. So we're going to put in 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, also known as bicarb soda in Australia. Quarter teaspoon of garlic powder. Quarter teaspoon of onion powder. And turmeric. You want to be careful with this bad boy so you don't get orange everywhere. And if anyone wants to check out my beautiful spice rack here,
Isn't that amazing? I love that.
I moved into this place and they had it and I was like, yes, this is amazing. I need this. Okay, so we've got our turmeric, garlic, onion powder, baking soda, nutritional yeast. Okay, so now we just need to pop in salt. Now you can always use, and the recipe does call for just regular old salt, but vegan hack number 2 is Kala Namak, which is Indian black salt, again, that you can get at Indian grocery stores. Vegan stores are also selling it now. And basically it gives it kind of like a sulfuric sort of smell, taste. So it is a way to kind of mimic the egg-like qualities. So I like to use this instead. Okay. So it says 1/4 to 1/8. So I'm just going to use an in-between amount. Okay, and then we just need to pop our liquids in. So it's calling for unsweetened non-dairy. So today I got some unsweetened oat milk, but you can use anything really. I haven't used this one before, but it was half price today, so that's what we're going with. Okay, so that's 3/4 cup. And we need 1 tablespoon. And then we also need 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar. Pantry staple, this one. And we just want to whisk.
Could you tilt your laptop a little bit so that we see what you're doing? Thank you. Awesome.
Sorry, guys. Okay, we want to make sure we get all the bits down the bottom. A little bit still in there. Okay, so we're just going to mix that well. And set it aside. Okay. Alrighty, so let's start with our frittata. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to make a pan frittata. Now, necessity is the start of invention. So basically, I used the chickpea flour recipe, and I just literally could not be bothered making omelets. So instead, pan frittata, the easier way to do it, where everything just goes in one pan. Also great for leftovers for lunches too. So we're just going to start off with our pan, and we're just going to grab some oil. Okay. Now the trick with the frittata is to go a bit low and slow because you're not going to be flipping it. So you want to make sure that you don't overheat it too much. We're also going to need to steam it so that it does cook in the middle, which you also need to do with omelets too. So you'll just need to have a lid as well to go on it. So we're doing, as I said, like a Mexican-ish inspired frittata. So basically using up all the stuff that I had in my fridge. So I'll show you what we've got here. So we've got some chopped cherry tomatoes, some Australian cardamom olives that I've just cut up, some roasted peppers that I've also just cut up, and some pickled jalapenos. So we're just using up some stuff that was down to the last little bit in my fridge. You know, don't like to waste that, and it's always, I reckon this is going to be amazing. So as well as that, we've got some shallots, some green onion, and we've also got some tinned corn that I've just taken from the can and drained and rinsed. So that's what we're going to put in there. Now I pre-made another batter here because we're doing 2 recipes. In this, I actually did have some chipotle pepper powder. So I actually just put in like a 1/4 teaspoon of chipotle pepper powder. So we're going to use this one here, and then this other one that we made is going to be for our omelettes.
There's a question for you, Rachel. Can you also cook this without oil?
Yeah, like, I mean, I haven't tried it, but I would assume if you've got a decent enough pan that you probably could. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't tried it. I would say give it a go. Again, if you do the frittata, you just want to make sure that you do it low and slow, so that you're not going to really like burn it on there. Yeah. We're not going to be using too much oil. It's just a little bit to coat.
Thanks, Rachel.
Okay. Alrighty. All right, so we want to be quick with this so we can get our ingredients in. I'm just going to try and push everything down a little bit. Okay, alrighty. So it's starting to firm up a little bit around the edges, so I'll pop the lid on now.
So in the meantime, I read out the question from Mark. Mark apparently has found out about this class in his market. And he's very, hang on a second, I just read that. I found out about this from someone I was talking to at the markets today. What a great idea. I just forgot I had something else on. Will you do another one? Yes, we will do more of these events. You can always find out about them on Facebook or on Eventbrite with the same title of a free online cooking class. I think in Eventbrite you can actually subscribe for a specific event or from a certain organizer so that you will be notified. If anyone has any question for Rachel, please also go ahead and ask, or just put it in the chat. I will read that for you.
Okay, so now we're going to do the omelette. So okay, so for this, we've still got some of our green onions. I've got some cheddar shreds, vegan cheddar shreds, that again was something that I had in my fridge. Then we've got, okay, I forgot I had some feta here that was actually for the frittata. So I'm gonna quickly pop that on. Vegan feta.
Which brand do you buy, Rachel, for vegan feta?
Well, to be honest, this is actually the first time I've bought it myself. I've had it, you know, in a lot of other places. This one is the She's version brand.
Nice, thanks.
Okay, so for the omelette, I've actually got, again, using up what I've got a little bit of smoked tofu that's left over. And I've got loads of mashed potato in the fridge, so we're going to be using some of that and our green onions. So, all right, now this batter, when you're making omelettes, actually makes two portions. So when you're making it, pouring it in, just remember that, just make sure to halve it. So I'm just going to be doing one. Okay. Oh. Took the lid off, didn't put any in. Oh my God, this smells so good right now. Okay. So I'm just going to take a quick look at this. It's looking pretty good. I'm actually going to take it off the heat and I'm just going to let it sit because we're going to be obviously busy. Switch here.
There's a question for you, Rachel. Where do you buy smoked tofu from?
So there There is a little place just near me. You can get it from vegan stores, from like, you know, organic supermarkets, health food stores, that kind of thing. So my local sort of like more like a grocery store rather than one of the big chains. Unfortunately, I don't have the packet, but yeah, I've seen it quite a few places. But yeah, so it has that nice like smoky looking quality to it versus the inside. It's nice and brown on the outside. Okay. All right, so I've got about 300 mils here. So, oh, I did not mix this well enough. Mine's a bit lump, but that's okay. It will still taste just fine. Okay. Alrighty, so we're just going to put our ingredients on half. Now, again, you can do whatever you have in the fridge and or pantry with this. I love making different combinations. This is a new one for me, but you know, I was excited to find this is a real thing. Okay, I'm just gonna put some green onions on. And some cheese shreds. Yeah. I wonder if I can show you this.
Nice.
And this is our other one that we've got going on.
Oh, that looks good.
It smells delicious in here, let me just say. Okay, so we've popped our toppings on. So we're waiting until it bubbles and firms up along the edges per the directions. And then when able to, gently fold over one side and cook for another minute, and then we pop the lid on. So let's get our little spatula. Let's see if this... No, give it another minute or so. Put the timer on. And then we'll check the middle of our other frittata here. I'll just leave that for a little bit longer. We'll see how our sour cream is doing. Still a little bit liquidy. So good.
So Rachel Zotmir also was at the market today, and someone told them about this. I wonder who that person is. And Rachel and Mark are neighbors, probably.
Oh, really?
Not you, Rachel. Rachel Zotmir. Yeah, the Rachel who heard about this event in the market? Oh, you told Mark. Okay, Rachel told Mark about this. But who told you, Rachel? You can go off mute as well. Rachel's at mute if you want to talk.
Alrighty, so I've managed to flip my omelette. It's looking very omelette-like, I have to say. And I'm just going to pop the lid on. Okay, alrighty. So now it comes the boring bit because it's just steaming away. So basically, once that's done steaming, you can serve it with the cashew sour cream, because we've got our vegan Mexican inspired frittata, so delicious with sour cream. And the recipe that I found that was this mashed potato omelette said to serve it with sour cream as well. So there you go. Yeah, so that's it. So we're basically just waiting for it to steam. It says to leave it for 5 minutes. Let's cook it for another 1 and then leave it for 5 with the lid on. And then that's it. You can just serve it. So
thanks so much, Rachel. Does anyone else have any question for Rachel?
Did you flip the omelette or not?
yes, I did. So
Can you show it? Oh yeah, that looks great. Thank you.
and I'll give you guys one last little peek at our frittata as well. Delicious for lunch already, but it is. There you go. Okay.
Does we have to have a lid? That is a question.
What was that?
Does we have to have a lid for the pan?
Yeah, you have to steam it because the reason for that is the chickpea flour, if it's not cooked properly, has a bit of a weird sort of flavor to it if it's not cooked. So you just want to make sure that, like, the purpose of that is to steam it in there so that it's definitely cooked all the way through.
Awesome, it looks good, thank you. We can always come back to it after Jolene is done, so that we have another look at the final result. Okay, I think it's a good time now. I explain about these classes and why we organize them. I put the spotlight on myself. Hang on a second. There's this new thing in Zoom that you can change the spotlight. All right, spotlight on me. Okay, so these classes that we organize are part of a group called Iranian Bushwalkers. We organize vegan cooking classes because we know that vegan dishes are more are kinder on the environment. And every time I also explain a little bit why it's kinder and how does having less meat helps the environment, or how having less any type of animal products basically helps the environment. Today I'm going to talk about milk a little bit. I'm going to share my screen. So do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so this should explain. Okay, hang on a second. I just make this. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about how what's the environmental impact of 1 glass of milk, or different types of milk. Basically, that's 200 milliliters of milk. Sorry. So this will be considering emissions, land use, as well as water use. So if we look at emissions for different types of milks, this is what you get for what's basically produced for 200 milliliters of dairy milk or cow's milk, which is about 600 grams of emissions. And if you compare it to other types of milks like rice milk, soy milk, oat milk, and almond milk, you see how much more using dairy milk is actually bad or worse for environment. If we go to land use, it's the same also. You see that 1.5 square meters, probably over a special time or certain time, is used for producing 200 milliliters of cow's milk versus rice, soy, or oat or almond, which are a tiny bit of square meters. And if you look at water use, even the worst one of the plant-based, which is almond, it is still a lot better than dairy milk if you compare it. So if you like environment, if you love nature, it's better to use more and more plant-based versus animal products. That's it for today. I'm gonna stop sharing and go back to Jolene. She's going to teach how to make san choy bowl.
Ready? Hi, so the next dish we're going to make is tofu and mushroom san choy bao. This is usually a Chinese dish, but we've kind of changed the flavors a little bit because I kind of prefer Thai flavors, just to freshen it up a bit. Often you'll find with a lot of Chinese dishes that use sauces, they use a lot of gluten in their sauces, and often it's nice to be able to cook a dish that's gluten-free so everyone can enjoy it. So tofu, if you haven't used a lot of tofu before, the way I like to think of tofu is like a blank canvas. It will take on whatever flavor that you want to put in it, and it's fantastic to cook with. It's high in calcium, it's high in protein, and yeah, don't be afraid of tofu. There's also another option for this dish, which is plant-based mince. If you haven't seen this, it's in the supermarket, ironically next to the meat. This actually works really well for san choy bao. We won't be cooking this, but I just thought I'd show you that. Okay, so for the first part of the dish, we're going to make the curry paste. So for this, we're going to use the food processor. So here we've just got all our ingredients. They've just been peeled, just have to be chopped up just in pieces, not just quite roughly. With your coriander roots, just make sure they're well washed. The reason that we use coriander roots is because this is where all the flavour is. So you can use the whole part of the coriander plant. We'll be using the chopped coriander, which will go through the dish as well. But this usually goes into pastes. Kaffir lime leaves. When you're using chili, depending on how hot you like it, I really like using the red banana chili. Mainly these are the big long ones that look like bananas. They're one of the milder chilies, so you can really get that flavour through without too much heat. So we'll put that in. You can also add lemongrass to this if you don't have any kaffir lime leaves. And just a clove of garlic, and then our shallot, and just some peeled ginger. Okay. And so here we've got our spices. So I've just got some turmeric and some curry powder. Just use your favourite curry powder. I just like to use a hot one. So up to you, that goes in as well. Okay. And just a bit of water to help this mix through. Because you want to get this quite smooth. Okay. just wipe down the edges. And that's quite fine. It's kind of what you're looking for. If you don't have to have a Thermomix. If you've just got a food processor, it just means you might have to blend it for a bit longer. You can also use a blender too if you really want to get it fine. You just have to add a bit more water, which is fine because we can cook this out later. So once we've got our paste, we'll just sit it there. Now before we cook that off, just a reminder to check your puddings in the oven if you're cooking them. I've already taken out, this is how the big one should look. So it just kind of springs up lightly. So that's ready. And I took this one out about 10 minutes ago. So this just looks like a muffin. So we'll just let them sit aside for now. So now we've got our paste here ready to cook. Our next step is just going to make the sauce. So I think I've said on the recipe that this is optional. I like having a peanut sauce with this, but also chili sauces are great. They're fine just on its own with a bit of lime. Yeah, so this is optional. This peanut sauce too is super simple. You can feel free to add chili and ginger and all sorts of things in it, but because we've already got so much flavour in our Sancho Bell, we're probably not going to need to put it in the sauce. So this is probably one of the simplest sauces you can make as far as peanut sauce. So peanut butter, you can use whatever you like. I'm using Pig's peanut butter, only because I prefer to get ones that don't have oil added to it. There's really no need to because peanuts have so much oil in them already. Okay. So I'll just check how much I said in the recipe. 1.5 tablespoons. So, now the more peanut butter that you add, the thicker your sauce will be. So if it's too thin or thick, you can just kind of adjust it like that. Now we're just going to add a tablespoon of tamari. I use tamari because it's a gluten-free soy. Not that I'm gluten-free, but just I tend to try and cook as many things as I can gluten-free to keep everybody happy. So a tablespoon of that. And it's a little bit lighter, I find, than regular soy. I quite like the flavour of it. Then we're just going to add just some lemon, which I've taken the skin off and all the seeds out. And you can just throw your coriander in as it is. And then again, we're going to add about 1/2 cup of water. Just to get it mixed in. And I'm just going to add a little bit of brown sugar as well, just to balance the flavours a bit, the saltiness. Okay. And we'll just put that on. And I just remembered to also add 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric. And it's a little bit thin, so I'm just going to add a little bit of extra peanut butter. Maybe a teaspoon. And you can just keep adding this until you get the thickness that you like. Now this is a really easy sauce to make for rice paper rolls as a dipping sauce. You can pour it over roast veggies, you can pour it over fried rice. It's quite versatile. So now I've got our sauce ready to go. So it's kind of almost like a thin mayonnaise consistency. So I'll just leave that there. So next step is to cook our paste off. So yeah, this off. Now, if you've got a good non-stick pan, you shouldn't need to add any oil to it. You can if you like. I just prefer to cook without oil when I can. So I'll just put that on. So we just want to cook this so it will start to thicken up a bit and all the spices will start to cook out. So I'm just going to turn that down low while we break up our tofu. So back over here, we've just got some firm tofu. Tofu comes in all sorts of textures and sizes, and I like using the firm one for kind of cooking dishes. I really like silken tofu too, but I use them more for sauces and really kind of soft dishes. So we're just going to break this up and just into little pieces. Just kind of imagine that it's resembling mince. That's what we're kind of replacing here. So it doesn't have to be too fussy. And we've also got some either button or oyster mushrooms, which I've just chopped up pretty finely. You can also grate this if you like, but it's just as easy to use your hands.
And it's more fun, isn't it?
Just like the feeling of it.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll bring these two over here. So we'll just turn that up a bit. Turn that light on. There we go. So with this curry paste, this is quite versatile as too. You can obviously make a curry out of it. You just need to add some coconut milk and some stock. You could also make a satay out of it if you were to add some peanut butter and coconut cream and a little bit of soy. And also making a paste like this, you can just keep it in the fridge for about a week, or you can freeze it. It will keep as well if you cover it with oil for quite a few weeks. So we'll just move that around a bit. So now we'll add our mushrooms. So we just want to cook these out a bit. So I know it's been a bit strange, we've kind of gone from dessert to main to entree, but hopefully this will work out nicely when it's done. Okay, now we're going to add a little bit of sesame oil, probably about a tablespoon. Now this will give it a really nice flavour. And we'll just add a little bit of extra water. Move it along. You'll start to really smell all of that as it starts to cook. Yes, we just leave that for a sec. Yes, over. Now this recipe is like kind of based on, it's come straight out of my head. So it's based on the way that I like things to taste, but obviously just add your own little bits to it. If you want to add more saltiness or more sweetness, just kind of play around with the tamari and the sugar. So I'm going to add the tofu now. So that's going to just absorb all of those flavors. Another way, if you don't like too much spice, but you still want that chili flavor, is to take the seeds out of the chili. Okay. So now we're just going to add a little bit of sugar. I've just got 2 teaspoons here. Starting to smell really good. So now we're going to add our soy. So about a table. I think I might have made an error in the menu. So when I said a tablespoon of tamari and a tablespoon of soy, what I meant was either one or the other. So take your pick. So I'll add that now. Mix it through. And then now we'll add, so we've just got some chopped spring onions and chopped coriander, which was from the same coriander we used the roots for. I'll add that in. Just make sure that's well mixed. And then we can just turn that off while we get the rest ready. Okay. So now we'll get our plates ready. So with the sancho, you can use, it's your choice of large cos leaves, baby cos, iceberg lettuce, just anything you can kind of pick it up with. I like these baby cos leaves because they're a nice kind of entree size. Yeah, so you can use these. Cool. These red ones are quite nice. You kind of want ones that sort of curl up a bit too, really. Right. Okay. So we're just going to grab some of our tofu mix. This is like a really good kind of party food as well. And eventually we're allowed to do that again. Now I usually drizzle some sauce on, or you could put it in one of these as a dipping sauce instead. And the garnish for this, I've just got some bean sprouts, some spring onions, and just some red capsicum. If you keep this in the fridge, the capsicum will curl up nicely, and the spring onion. So just put a little bit on each to give it a nice crunch.
There's a question from Marta. Do you reckon I can use rehydrated dried mushrooms? I buy them often since they're easy for storage and don't go off.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that'd probably work great. And I've just got some fried shallots here, which you can just buy from the supermarket. They just give it a nice crunch. Again, these are optional. And yeah, just served with a little bit of lime. That's it.
Awesome, thank you. Is there more questions for Jolene? That looks really good. Yum. So we got some more questions. If there's no questions for Jolene, we have a couple of questions for Rachel. Have we got Rachel around still? Yes, we do. Okay, I'm gonna read the questions for you, Rachel. One question is the recipes that you explain on the same document that I shared, or are the variations not on the document that I shared with people?
No, it's just a basic recipe because this is just literally random items from my fridge. So I can list out just like the basic, there won't be any measurements because it was literally like the end of a bottle of olives, the end of a bottle of roasted red peppers. So yeah, as I said, there's no measurements, but I can put in a post with the ingredients that I put in each of them. And so you can recreate it if you want to at home.
That sounds great, thank you. I will also put the link of the YouTube video that I'm gonna upload. I will share it with people who have got the ticket on Eventbrite and also put it on Facebook. So you will be able to rewatch this. Another question for you, Rachel, from Caroline. When convenient, I'd be keen to hear your views on how helpful the Vitamix and Thermomix are for vegan cooking.
The Vitamix, yeah. Well, I mean, I've been wanting a high-powered blender for a while. I didn't actually even have a blender before, and I've been eyeing them off. And yeah, I mean, it's great. Like this one that I got has like multiple functions. So I used the dip function on when I made the sour cream just then. There's like a soup function as well. So it like adjusts the speeds and stuff. So, and power settings. So it'll switch them up. So it'll go from, you know, higher to lower or whatever it thinks is required. So yeah, like I've found it to be really good. I haven't had it for that long, honestly. So, because I just moved into a new place. But yeah, like just having a high-powered blender is just the best. Before this one, my old flatmate had a NutriBullet, so it was a lot smaller, and so you couldn't make like hot soups or like anything like that in it, or anything that was too voluminous. But I found that even just to be in the smaller size was great for making pasta sauces with, I just did like random collections of, again with the cashews. I do like cashews, nutritional yeast, herbs and spices. I put in a whole de-seeded red pepper, like capsicum, and or one time I used a yellow, which I like, has that sort of adds a freshness, and just whack it all in there, blitz it up, and then bam, you've got pasta sauce. So honestly, a high-powered blender is just can't go past it. But you obviously just go for whatever brand floats your boat.
Thank you. How is the omelette looking?
This is our omelette here. So we can see the cheese is all nice and melty in there. So it's looking and smelling delicious. And this is our frittata here too. Sorry, the light's not great. That's a bit better. So yeah.
Can you also take us some photos before you finish them off?
Sure.
Thank you. Go back to Jolene and see how the sticky date pudding is looking now.
Okay, bye guys. I'm going to sign off. Bye.
Thanks so much, Rachel. It was great. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
So time to serve up the pudding. So hopefully they're all ready by now. My oven's quite slow, so I assume everyone else's would be by now. So serve it up is really easy. If it's in a muffin tray, just pull it out of muffin. I like to tip it upside down. Now, the best way to do this is while it's still warm, because you want it to really soak up all the butterscotch sauce. So yeah, or you can just cut squares instead. So you can see some of those dates through it. It should be like really nice and soft and moist. All right. Your sauce should still be warm. If it's not, just put it on for a bit longer, but it should be a really nice consistency now. And then we're just going to tip it on. It should absorb quite a bit. Now this pudding freezes really well. So without the sauce, you can freeze it. And it will keep in the fridge for quite a few days as well. You can make your sauce ahead of time, obviously. And I think I've already said about ice cream, there's just so many to choose from now. Some of them you really can't tell the difference. I prefer this one because it's a good price. It's a lot of the vegan ice creams can be quite expensive, so this is quite reasonable. It's also very creamy and it's quite a neutral flavour, so if you don't want it to overtake what you're making, it's a really good option. And if you wanted to as well, like these little muffins, you could make an icing and just put that on have sticky date muffins instead without the caramel sauce. You could make some sort of icing to go with it. So it's quite versatile. When heating them up, if you've frozen it or you've kept it in the fridge, just put your pudding in a bowl with a bit of sauce on it and then just heat it in the microwave. Or if you don't want to do that, you can just put it on a tray in the oven. Maybe cover it with some foil just to reheat. And that's it.
Perfect. That looks really good. Any questions for Jolene? No? All right. So if there's no more questions, we can finish it here. Thanks everyone for joining our class. If you are interested to also be a cook in these online classes, please contact me. And yeah, tell your friends about them. I will share all the links on the Facebook event, as well as email you through Eventbrite if you have purchased a ticket through there. Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
See you guys.
you. See you later.
Did I buy a ticket?